The gym lights were bright like noon. Parents, teachers, and city officials watched from round tables as I stepped onto the stage at the district gala with the slow, careful walk of a woman whose knee should have been in surgery 2 months ago. My daughter, Lila, sat front row in a blue dress I bought on layaway. Beside her, Ms. Avery, the teacher who called herself like family, smiled as if she owned the night. My ex-husband, Daniel, stood near the sound booth, ready to wave me off like a fly. I didn't bring flowers. I brought truth. I held the mic, kept my voice soft, and tapped my phone. The giant screen behind me lit up with a voice memo. A familiar voice filled the hall, clear as a bell. Say it just like this, sweetheart. Thank you to my real parent, Ms. Avery, who shows up for me. Your mom will understand. She always messes things up. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The recording kept going. This matters for the grant and for your future. Don't mention your mother at all, the voice said. Ms. Avery's voice. Lila went still. The superintendent blinked. Daniel lurched toward the stage, red in the face. I raised a hand to stop him. The next audio clip began. Daniel's whisper, caught on a different day. If you say it like Ms. Avery wants, the custody judge will see who the stable adult is. A fork hit a plate. A woman choked on her drink. Ms. Avery stood, eyes shining with anger and fear. This is illegal, she shouted. I looked at Lila. Baby, you didn't have to say a single word tonight for me to love you. You are not a tool. Then the screen flickered. The house lights dimmed. Somewhere in the back, a fire alarm yanked to life with a hard, ugly scream. The room plunged into red strobe. Someone grabbed my shoulder from behind and hissed in my ear. Turn it off now. Rain tapped the diner windows like a tired drummer. The lunch rush had thinned, and the smell of coffee and fried onions hung in the air. I wiped down booth 4, Lila's favorite when she stopped by after school, while my knee throbbed under its brace. I was supposed to be at the hospital in 3 days for surgery. The doctor had said the words small tear and simple fix, but pain has its own dictionary. Every step I took said, not simple. The bell above the door rang. Coach Miller came in for his usual tuna melt. How's that knee, Maya? He asked. Still mad at me, I said, forcing a smile. But I can stand. I can work. He nodded like people do when they want to help but can't. You take it easy now. I'll try, I said, which meant I wouldn't. My phone buzzed on the counter. A school email. You're invited to the Riverbend District Scholar Night, honoring students for excellence. Lila's name was bold. Reading it made my chest warm. She'd been staying late for weeks, working on her science project with Ms. Avery. Lila talked about her teacher like she was made of sunlight. Ms. Avery gets me, she said. She listens. Good, I thought at first. Everyone needs more than one adult who believes in them. But there was a little sting too. The kind you pretend you don't feel. The feeling of being left out when it's your own child doing the leaving. Big news? Asked Tina, my manager, popping up beside me with a stack of menus. Lila's getting an award, I said. Scholar night. It's the same day as my surgery though. Surgery's at 5. The program starts at 6. Can they move the surgery? She asked. The doctor said there's a cancellation list, but insurance windows, prep times. I shook my head. They've already delayed me once. Could the school seat you near the front so you can slip in late? Tina offered. It's not the same. I could picture Lila stepping to the mic, scanning the crowd, not seeing me. That empty space where she expected her mother. I had a picture like that from my own life. A school play when I was 9, my father promising he'd be there, then not coming. The seat stayed empty. Some empties follow you like shadows. The bell rang again. Daniel walked in, rain on his jacket, hair perfect like he'd just left a commercial shoot. He didn't come for the food. He came for the feeling of being in charge. The divorce had given him the habit of talking to me like a helpful stranger. Can we talk? He asked, not really asking. I led him to the end of the counter. Make it quick. I'm on the clock. Lila's award, he said. Big moment. You know she's closer to Ms. Avery than ever. He made it sound like he was proud of managing it. I know she admires her teacher, I said. She wants to stay the night at Ms. Avery's after the event. The team is doing an early morning field trip the next day. Ms. Avery offered to drive. She can come home with me, I said. I'll drive her wherever she needs. Can you? His eyes flicked to my brace. With the surgery. You're cutting it close. The words stung because they were true. He saw it. He used it. We'll figure it out, I said. He leaned in. It would mean a lot to Lila. Stability, Maya. Consistency. He said stability like I was a storm. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't hand him the anger he wanted. I'm her mother, I said. I show up. His smile was thin. Do you? Because if you can't make it to the show, I'll make it, I said fast. Too fast. He nodded, as if he had just won something. Good. Then talk to your doctor. He slid a napkin toward me with a time scribbled on it. 6 p.m., as if I didn't know it already. Don't disappoint her. He left without ordering. After my shift, I sat in my old sedan listening to the rain drum the roof and imagined two paths. One to the hospital, the other to the gym. My knee throbbed like a small animal trapped and angry. I opened my phone to message the hospital. That's when a new email slid into view, subject line. Speech draft. It was from Ms. Avery. For Lila, it began, but I was in the CC line. Maybe a mistake, maybe on purpose. The body of the email made my stomach twist. So proud of you, star, it read. Here's a draft for your acceptance speech. Keep it short and sweet. Remember, we want the committee to see who your stable adult is. Maybe. Thank you to my real parent, Ms. Avery, who shows up for me daily and believes in me always. You can add Daniel if you want to. No need to mention other things tonight. This is your moment. No need to mention other things. Other things like me. Like the mother who packed lunches, sewed hems, slept on a chair in the ER when Lila had the flu. The mother whose knee sang pain so her daughter could have a ride, a dress, a smile. For a second I thought it was a joke. A weird, over-friendly mistake. Then I read it again and felt the shape of it, the clean, sharp lines of a plan. Words like stable adult weren't friendly. They were legal-sounding, custody-sounding. I hit reply and typed, "This is not okay." Then I stared at the screen and erased the words. If I fired now, I'd look like a jealous mom. If I said nothing, I would hand them the stage. I had to be careful. But I also had to be a mother. That night, I tried to talk to Lila while she scrolled on her bed, face lit by the glow of her screen. Posters lined her walls, planets and poems and a photo of the city skyline at night. She used to let me braid her hair. Now she wore it in a messy bun that I wanted to fix and didn't dare touch. "Hey baby," I said. "Big night coming." She nodded, barely looking up. "Yeah, it's huge. Ms. Avery says the scholarship people look at these things." "I got an email," I said carefully. "A draft for your speech." Lila's shoulders tensed. "It's just ideas." "Real parent?" I asked, soft but steady. "That's not an idea. That's a message." She looked at me then, cheeks flushing. "You're making this a thing. Ms. Avery is there. Every day. She texts to check on me. She reads my work. She shows up." The words found the crack in me and pressed. I swallowed. "I show up too." A tiny silence opened between us. Lila looked at my brace, then away. "Sometimes," she said. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt the thread that tied us stretch tight. "Can I tell you a story?" "Yes." She shrugged, which was not a yes and not a no. "When I was 9, I was in a school play. My dad promised he'd be there. He had a new job. He said he'd make it anyway. I looked for him the whole time. The seat next to Mom stayed empty. I did my lines and smiled big, but when I took a bow, it felt like the floor dropped away. I don't want that for you." She looked at me a long second. The hard line in her face softened, just a little. Then her phone buzzed and the softness flicked off like a light. "I need to practice," she said. I left her room and leaned in the hallway, breathing shallow, hand on the wall. My knee pulsed in time with my heart. I opened the surgeon's portal and stared at the message box. My fingers hovered. Then I closed it. The next morning the hospital called. "We have to push you back 30 minutes, the scheduler said. "A case is running long." 30 minutes. Echoed. "You'll check in at 3:30 now. Surgery at 5:30. The program started at 6. The math cut me open. "Is there any way to move me to tomorrow?" "Your authorization expires this week," she said. "If we push to next week, we may need a new referral." "I'll be there," I said, my voice so calm it surprised me. I hung up and called the school. "This is Maya Brooks. I need to speak with Ms. Avery." "She's in class," the office manager said. "Is this urgent?" "Yes," I said. "Is everything okay with Lila?" Her tone sharpened. "Everything is fine with my daughter," I said, trying not to bite the words. "Please tell Ms. Avery I called." I didn't wait. I drove to the school on my lunch break. The hallways smelled like pencil shavings and gym wax. Kids laughed in clusters. A poster for Scholar Night hung near the office with stars doodled in the corners. The secretary gave me a guest badge with a slow look that said she knew more about me than I wanted her to. "She's in room 214, the secretary said. "You can wait outside." I stood by the door where Lila couldn't see me and watched Ms. Avery, clean-cut, kind smile, cardigan soft as a cloud, move through the rows. She leaned over Lila's desk and tapped her paper, and Lila smiled like the sun came out. A sour heat rose in me. Not because my daughter smiled. Because someone had asked her to use that smile as a weapon. Class ended. Ms. Avery stepped into the hall. "Ms. Brooks," she said, as if we were friends. "So good to see you." "I got your email," I said, keeping my voice low. "About the speech." "Right." She folded her hands. "Lila asked for help. Public speaking can be hard at this age." "Not the speaking," I said. "The words. Real parent. Take it out." Her face tried on surprise. It didn't quite fit. "I think you're reading into it. Kids use that phrase with teachers they're close to. Then find a different phrase." Her smile thinned. "Maya, this is about Lila. About her opportunities. The committee notices who supports her." "I support her," I said. She glanced at my brace. "It sends a message when you're late or unavailable." "Available." Each part a little cut. I leaned in, not smiling now. "Do not use my child's speech to make a case about me." "Are you threatening me?" she asked, warm as honey and hard as ice. "I'm telling you to respect a mother," I said. A door closed down the hall. Ms. Avery leaned closer. "We both want what's best for Lila," she whispered. "Sometimes what's best is not complicated." Complicated meant me. I stared at her, and in that quiet stare I saw a line I hadn't seen before. I thought of Daniel with his careful hair and careful words. Had they talked? The word stable had traveled from his mouth to hers or the other way around. "Change the speech," I said. "Or I will." That night, Lila practiced in the living room while I stirred a pot of soup. "Thank you to my teacher, Ms. Avery," she read from her phone, "who is like family." "Stop," I said too fast. She glared. "I knew you would do this." I talked to Ms. Avery. Her eyes widened like I had slapped her. "You went behind my back." "I'm in front of you, Lila." She stood trembling. "You just can't handle that someone else cares about me." "No," I said, my voice shaking now too. "I can't handle a grown-up using you to win some game." "It's not a game," she said. "This speech matters." "It does," I said. "So use your own voice." She looked at me like I was a stranger who had knocked on the wrong door. Her phone buzzed. She read the screen and her face changed. "Ms. Avery says she talked to the committee," she said. "They want speeches short. No personal stories. Just gratitude." My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. No messy feelings, no mom. Clean lines. Safe words. The kind that fit in files. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling. The rain had stopped. My knee burned. The clock slid from 1 to 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I thought of the two doors again, the hospital and the gym. At 3:15 a.m. I sat up, made tea I didn't drink, and opened my laptop. My fingers moved without my fear. I sent 2 emails. One to the hospital, one to the school. The hospital one said, "I may arrive late." The school one asked for a copy of the final program, for my records. Morning came gray and thin. I put on my best dress and my brave face. On my way out, I glanced at Lila's bedroom door. It was half open. She lay curled under a blanket, hair in a soft cloud around her face. I wanted to go in, kiss her brow like when she was small. I didn't. I didn't want to wake her. And maybe I didn't want to risk another fight. At the hospital front desk, the clerk clicked through screens. "Check in at 3:30, she said. "You'll change, then pre-op." "Can I check in and then step out briefly?" "Yes." "My daughter's award is at 6. The clerk blinked. "You can't leave once you're checked in, ma'am." I nodded like that made sense. "Thank you." I checked in at 3:30. I changed into a gown. A nurse wrapped a warm blanket around my shoulders and marked my leg with a purple X. "You're in good hands," she said. "Do you have someone waiting?" "My brother's on his way," I lied. My phone buzzed. "Tina. We're cheering for Lila tonight." Second buzz. An unknown number. "Program order attached." I opened the PDF with slow dread. My eyes slid to the speaker notes. My chest tightened. There it was in small clean font. "Thank you to my real parent, Ms. Avery." My hand shook. The nurse glanced up. "You okay?" Yes," I said, swallowing. The room wobbled. A shape came together in my mind like a picture developing in a bath of chemicals. Ms. Avery's words. Daniel's push. The phrase, "stable adult." The program's quiet cut. This wasn't an accident. It was a path built out of small stones. Each stone said I was less. I was not less. At 4:15, the anesthesiologist came in with kind eyes. "We'll take good care of you," he said. "Any questions?" "Just one," I said. "How late can I be and still have the surgery?" He laughed like I was joking. "Let's not test it." He left. Clock moved. I heard a gurney squeak by in the hall. The room smelled sharp and clean. My phone buzzed again. A text from Daniel. "If you can't make it, I'll sit with Lila. She'll be fine." Fine. The word tasted like metal. At 4:47 I slid off the bed. My knee screamed. I breathed through it and stood. I pulled on my clothes with shaking hands. I opened the door and limped down the hall. "Ms. Brooks." A nurse called. "Where are you going?" "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "I have to go be a mother." I pushed through the exit into a slap of cool air. The parking lot was a shining mirror from the rain. I got into my car and stared at the hospital for one full breath, then another. The engine turned like it was deciding whether it believed in me. Did. I drove toward the school. The sky was a soft purple when I pulled into the crowded lot. Parents hurried toward the gym in nice shoes. I parked far away because it was all I could find and limped fast as I could. Each step felt like stepping on a live wire. The gym doors glowed ahead like the mouth of a warm cave. Inside, balloons floated above a stage glittering with a silver banner. Scholar Night. I found a seat near the back because it was all that was left. The lights dimmed. Hush fell. Lila's category came up second. She walked to the mic like a story walking out of a book. The MC smiled. "Our next honoree, Lila Brooks." My breath snagged. She unfolded her phone. Her lips parted. "Thank you to my..." A soft voice behind me said, "Isn't it beautiful when kids know who their real parent is?" Turned. Ms. Avery stood 2 rows back, watching my daughter with shining eyes. I stared at the stage, at my child, at the small black box of a microphone that could turn a heart into a headline. I reached into my purse. My fingers closed around something that would make this night change forever. And then Lila drew in a breath to say the next word. Her voice was clear in the microphone. Real parent Ms. Avery, who shows up for me daily and believes in me always. The crowd clapped politely, but my ears rang like a fire alarm. My daughter smiled at Ms. Avery, not at me, before walking back to her seat. Daniel leaned forward from the back row, giving Ms. Avery a subtle nod that made my stomach turn. I didn't clap. I didn't move. My fingers stayed wrapped around the small voice recorder in my purse. The one with all the conversations I'd saved over the last few weeks. Emails read aloud, whispered instructions to Lila, even a late-night phone call between Daniel and Ms. Avery plotting how to ease me out of Lila's life. I had enough to ruin them both. But in that moment, the sting in my chest wasn't about revenge. It was about the fact that my little girl had said those words like she believed them. My body felt heavy as the rest of the ceremony dragged on. I wanted to stand up, walk out, and never come back. But that would be exactly what they wanted. Proof that I couldn't handle it. When the lights came up and people started filing toward the reception tables, I stayed seated, waiting for the right moment. I watched Lila laugh with her friends, Ms. Avery's hand on her shoulder like she owned her. Daniel stood nearby, drinking coffee and playing the proud father. I pulled out my phone and sent one short text, to a number I hadn't called in years. "It's time." The reply came almost instantly. "Where?" I typed. "School gym. Now." Then I stood, smoothed my dress, and limped toward the refreshment area. I poured myself a cup of lemonade I didn't want, my eyes locked on Ms. Avery. She noticed me and gave me a smile that could cut glass. "Maya, you made it. And on time." I took a sip, my hand steady. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Her smile widened, but her eyes flickered with something. Wariness, maybe. "You must be proud." "I am," I said. "I'm proud my daughter is so good at following instructions." Her face tightened, but she didn't answer. Daniel walked over, pretending he'd just noticed me. "Hey Maya. Glad you could come. The surgery." Shrug. Postponed. Seemed like tonight was more important. Ms. Avery looked at me closely, maybe realizing for the first time that I wasn't going to cry in the bathroom and disappear. Then from the gym doors I saw my old friend Mark step in, broad-shouldered, dressed in a plain suit, carrying a black leather folder. "Private investigator." Daniel's smile faltered when he spotted him. Ms. Avery's hand dropped from Lila's shoulder. Mark walked straight toward me and without even lowering his voice said, "I've got what you asked for." "It's bad." I smiled for the first time that night. Because if they thought tonight was about who Lila's real parent was, they were about to learn just how dangerous it was to push a mother to her breaking point. The gym's chatter faded into a low hum as Mark handed me the folder. It was heavier than I expected. Pages, photos, transcripts. My fingers itched to open it right there, but I forced myself to slip it into my purse. This wasn't the place for fireworks. Not yet. Daniel stepped closer, his fake, concerned co-parent face on. "What's this about?" he asked, eyes darting to Mark. "Just some business," I said, my voice even. "Nothing for you to worry about." Mark gave Daniel a polite nod, the kind that meant I know exactly who you are and I'm not impressed. Miss Avery glanced between us, her smile stretched tight. "Everything okay?" "Oh, everything's fine," I said, sipping my lemonade. "In fact, I think everything's about to get very clear." Before either of them could press further, Lila ran up to me, her face flushed from excitement. "Mom, did you hear my speech?" Every word was still a bruise in my chest, but I smiled. "I heard every word, sweetheart." "I know it's not what you expected," she said quickly, "but it was my choice." She glanced at Ms. Avery as if to confirm. "I'm sure it was," I said softly, my gaze locked on her teacher. The announcer called for photos, and Lila bounced away to join her group. Mark leaned in. "We should talk somewhere private." "Follow me," I said. We slipped out the side door into the cool night. The rain had stopped, leaving the parking lot slick and shining under the streetlights. Mark opened the folder and spread it across the hood of my car. "You were right," he said. "This isn't just about the award night. Your ex and this teacher have been in contact for months. Emails, texts, even phone calls. They've been building a case against you. Subtle stuff, but enough to sway a custody judge if they wanted to. He handed me a printed transcript. I skimmed the first few lines and my jaw clenched. Daniel. We need to show she's unstable. Always late, missing things, medical problems. Anything. Ms. Avery. The award night will be perfect. If she's not there, it writes itself. Page after page of the same. Plotting, weaving a narrative where I was the unreliable parent and they were the saviors. They were waiting for you to miss tonight, Mark said. If you had gone through with the surgery, they'd have proof you put yourself first. I closed the folder, the edges biting into my palms. So I didn't play their game, but I'm not letting this go. Mark smirked. Good. 'Cause I've got more. Financial stuff. Ms. Avery's been creative with grant funds. And Daniel. He's been taking side payments from a contractor he's not supposed to be working with. I looked toward the gym doors, where the laughter and music still spilled out. I'm going to take away the one thing they both want, control. Mark raised a brow. You want to go legal or public? Both, I said. But first, I want them to feel it. The plan formed in my head as I stood there, something that would hit them where they least expected. Back inside, the reception was winding down. I walked past Daniel without a word, past Ms. Avery without a glance. They didn't know it yet, but the countdown had started. And when I was done, they wouldn't just lose Lila's trust. They'd lose everything. I just had to figure out the perfect first move. The next morning, the sun was bright but cold, the kind of day that looks warm through a window and tricks you the second you step outside. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee going lukewarm in my hands, Mark's folder spread open in front of me like a war map. I'd been up half the night reading everything. Screen captures of text messages, email printouts, photos taken through long lenses. Every word was another nail in the coffin they'd built for me. The fact that they'd been so confident, so smug, made it worse. Daniel and Ms. Avery wanted a slow kill. They wanted me to look like I'd just faded away from Lila's life. My revenge couldn't just expose them. It had to make them feel what I felt on that stage. Overlooked. Betrayed. Mark called right on time. Morning, Maya. You decide which direction you want to start with. I want them to think they've already won, I said. And then I want to take that win apart in front of them. Mark chuckled. That's dangerous. I like it. I started with Ms. Avery. She had a reputation in town. The teacher who cares. She posted inspirational quotes on her Facebook, ran after-school programs, and hugged students like she was their second mom. She lived for that image. Do you have the receipts for the grant money? Asked Mark. Oh yeah, he said. Supplies bought that never arrived at the school. A laptop that broke before it was ever logged in the district system. She's been funneling little bits into a personal account for months. Not huge amounts, just enough to stay under the radar. Send me the cleanest example, I said. One that's easy to understand but looks complicated enough for her to panic. By noon I had it. A single-page printout with highlighted transfers from the district's grant fund to an account under her maiden name. No explanation, no context. Just enough to rattle her. I slipped the paper into an unmarked envelope and walked to the school, my knee aching with every step. I waited until lunch period, then left the envelope in her staff mailbox with a yellow sticky note on top. Thought you should know what the district accountant is asking about. No threats. No accusations. Just a seed of doubt. By the time I got home, Mark had texted me. She's already called Daniel twice. Perfect. That night Daniel called me. What the hell are you doing, Maya? His voice was tight. I'm making dinner, I said, keeping my tone casual. You put something in Avery's mailbox. Did I? I let the question hang. He lowered his voice, like Lila might overhear even through the phone. You need to stop whatever game you're playing. You think you're helping yourself, but you're not. You're making yourself look unstable. I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. Daniel, you've been telling people I'm unstable for months. If I'm going to wear the label, I might as well have fun with it. You're going to regret this, he said and hung up. I set the phone down and took a deep breath. The first crack had been made. Now I just had to widen it, until the whole facade came crashing down. But that would mean going after Daniel next. And what I had in mind for him was going to hurt. I started on Daniel at dawn. Revenge wasn't about rushing. It was about timing, and Daniel was a man who prided himself on being in control. If I could make him feel like things were slipping through his fingers, he'd lash out. And if he lashed out in the wrong direction, it might even be at Ms. Avery. Mark met me at a little coffee shop 2 towns over, far from anyone who might know us. He slid a flash drive across the table. This, he said, is everything on the contractor kickbacks. Bank transfers, fake invoices, and a very interesting email where he calls them our little side hustle. Perfect, I said. You want me to send it to the state licensing board? Not yet. I stirred my coffee slowly. First, I want him to think someone else already has. By mid-morning, Daniel was probably at his office, leaning back in that overpriced chair he bought during the divorce. I typed up a short, anonymous email and attached just 2 of the most incriminating files, enough to make him sweat, but not enough to ruin him. Yet, the subject line read, "This might interest your competitors." No name, no signature, just the files. I sent it to his work email from a burner account. Then, 5 minutes later, I sent the exact same message to Ms. Avery's school address. Let the paranoia begin. Around lunch, my phone lit up. Daniel. I didn't answer. Then came a text. Daniel. Did you send something to Avery? Why? I let him stew for 2 hours before replying. Funny. She called me this morning asking the same thing about you. The hook was set. By the time I picked Lila up for dinner that evening, Daniel had called me 4 more times. I ignored everyone. Lila was quiet in the passenger seat, fiddling with the bracelet Ms. Avery had given her. You and Ms. Avery close? Asked lightly. She's just there for me, Lila said. It's nice to have someone who listens. I nodded, even though it felt like a knife twist. Listening is good. But sometimes people listen so they can use what you say later. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Just pay attention to who asks you to keep secrets, I said. She didn't answer, and we rode in silence. Back at home, I checked my phone. Mark had sent an update. Your ex just had a private meeting with Avery in the parking lot. Lots of hand waving. Let them scramble. Let them start to doubt each other. I pulled the voice recorder from my purse and played the clip I'd been saving, the one where Daniel and Avery argued over who should take credit for fixing Lila's award speech. Their words were sharp, fast, and dripping with ego. I smiled as the plan for the next move slid into place. Because the real fun wasn't just making them fight me. It was making them fight each other. By Monday morning, I didn't even need Mark to tell me things were heating up. The signs were everywhere. Daniel's SUV parked outside the school longer than usual. Ms. Avery's usually chirpy Facebook posts replaced with vague quotes about trust and disloyalty. And most telling of all, a district-wide staff email sent at 9:14 a.m. about maintaining professional boundaries with students and parents. That email didn't have her name on it, but everyone knew who it was aimed at. I wanted the cracks to be visible, not just to me, but to the entire community. So I decided it was time to take my recordings out of the shadows, carefully in pieces like feeding a fire just enough to keep it growing. That afternoon, I called the PTA president, a woman named Linda who never met a piece of gossip she couldn't spread within the hour. I don't know if this is something you'd be concerned about, I said, keeping my voice low. But I heard something about Ms. Avery coaching a student on what to say about her parents. You know, for that award speech. Linda's voice sharpened immediately. That's not allowed. Do you have proof? I wouldn't want to get anyone in trouble, I said sweetly. But someone sent me this clip. I played only 10 seconds, the part where Avery's voice clearly said, "Say it just like this, sweetheart. Thank your real parent." Linda gasped. Oh, this will have to be discussed at the next board meeting. I pretended to hesitate. Please don't mention me. I'm just concerned for the kids. By the time I hung up, I knew the clip would be halfway across the district before dinner. That night, Mark texted. They're scrambling. Daniel was seen at the school again after hours. Avery's car was parked in back. I could picture it. Two people who thought they'd outsmarted me now trapped in their own little panic room, whispering about who leaked what. The next day I took it further. The school board was meeting in 3 days. I sent an anonymous tip to the local paper about possible misuse of school funds, tied to a district grant program. I attached the single-page printout from Avery's mailbox. No accusations, just, might be worth looking into. By Wednesday morning, a reporter was making calls. Avery's smile at drop-off was tighter than a drum. Daniel didn't even get out of his SUV to greet Lila. He just watched me from behind the wheel, his jaw set. That afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Stop now or you'll regret it. I sent back a single photo, the flash drive with all their dirt on it, sitting on my kitchen table. No words. Just the message. I'm not even close to finished. What they didn't know was that the real explosion was scheduled for the school board meeting. And I wouldn't even have to speak. Because I'd already arranged for someone else to do it for me. Someone they'd never see coming. The night of the school board meeting, the parking lot was already packed. Pickup trucks, minivans, and shiny sedans lined every inch of pavement. The air was sharp with the smell of coffee from travel mugs and the low buzz of small-town curiosity. People didn't come out like this unless there was blood in the water. I parked 2 streets over and took my time walking in, my knee stiff but my mind sharp. I didn't need to rush. I wasn't the one speaking tonight. Inside, the boardroom was standing room only. Teachers sat in one corner, whispering. Parents huddled in another, trading rumors. On the far side, Daniel and Ms. Avery sat together at the end of the second row, both looking like they'd bitten into the same sour lemon. They didn't notice me slip into the back. But I wanted a clear view when the fireworks started. The chairwoman went through the usual boring business. Budget approvals, field trip permissions, but you could feel the anticipation building. When she finally opened the floor for public comment, my ally stood up. Her name was Nancy Hart. Retired English teacher. 40 years in the district. Beloved, respected, and utterly incapable of keeping quiet when something smelled wrong. She walked to the microphone in her neat cardigan and low heels, holding a single sheet of paper. I want to address something I recently became aware of, she said, her voice steady but carrying to every corner of the room. It concerns the conduct of a current staff member and the possible misuse of district funds. The murmurs started instantly. I watched Daniel's head snap toward Avery. Her face froze. Nancy continued. I have here a copy of grant disbursements from the district account, money meant for student resources, that appear to have been transferred to a personal account. I believe this warrants immediate investigation. The chairwoman tried to restore order, but Nancy wasn't finished. And while I'm here, she said, I also have serious concerns about reports of a teacher influencing a student's public speech to undermine a parent. I've heard a recording myself. It's troubling to say the least. That was it. The grenade had gone off. Daniel turned on Avery right there in his seat, hissing something through clenched teeth. Avery whispered back furiously, shaking her head like she could erase the words from the air. The chairwoman promised a full review and moved on, but the room was buzzing. Teachers were exchanging looks. Parents were texting. The local paper's reporter was scribbling like her pen might catch fire. By the time the meeting adjourned, Avery's perfect image was cracked in front of half the town. I lingered in the hallway as people filed out. Daniel stormed past without looking at me, but Avery stopped. You did this, she said, her voice low and venomous. I smiled faintly. Funny, I thought you did this to yourself. She stepped closer, her eyes hard. You think you've won. This isn't over. I leaned in just enough for her to smell my perfume. You're right. It's not. Because what Avery didn't know, and what Daniel was about to learn, was that the next blow was aimed directly at him. And it would hit before either of them had a chance to recover. 2 days after the school board meeting, Daniel's name was on everyone's lips, just not for the reasons he was used to. Mark and I had timed it perfectly. While Avery was busy trying to plug the holes in her sinking reputation, I quietly prepared the torpedo for Daniel's. It started with the contractor kickback evidence, the side hustle files from the flash drive. Instead of going straight to the state licensing board, I sent the full package to a local news anchor I knew from my diner job. She owed me a favor from years ago when I covered her meal after her card got declined. Small-town debts run deep. Within 24 hours, Daniel's face was on the evening news under the headline, "Local project manager under investigation for illegal kickbacks." They didn't have the full story yet, but they had enough. A blurred screenshot of the email with his side hustle comment. A redacted bank statement showing deposits that didn't match his salary. The words "possible fraud" hung heavy in the broadcast. By the time I saw him that evening, pulling up in front of my house to drop off Lila, he was a storm barely contained in a button-down shirt. "She can't stay tonight," he said before Lila even got out of the car. "Why not?" I asked, leaning against the doorway. "We've got things to handle." His eyes were sharp, and his jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. From the passenger seat, Lila frowned. "Dad, I already told Mom about." "Not now," he snapped. I stepped forward. "She's staying. Whatever your mess is, she doesn't need to be in the middle of it." His nostrils flared. "You think you're clever. You think I don't know you're behind this." I didn't blink. "Behind what, Daniel?" "Your own words. Your own bank account. Seems like you were behind it long before I was." For a moment I thought he might actually say something that would hand me even more ammunition. But instead he cursed under his breath, slammed the driver's door and peeled away, leaving Lila standing there confused and small. Inside, over dinner, I didn't bring it up. I just let her talk about school and her friends, filling the room with normalcy while the storm outside grew. But later, when she was asleep, I called Mark. "It's time for the last piece," I said. "You sure?" he asked. "I want him to burn so hot. Avery steps away just to save herself. When that happens, the alliance dies, and I'll have exactly what I want. Both of them isolated, with nothing to hide behind." Mark laughed softly. "I've got just the match for that fire." The next morning a new email went out. Not from me, not from Mark, but from an anonymous concerned citizen. It was sent to every member of the school board, the district superintendent, and the local paper. Attached was an audio file. Daniel's voice, clear as day. "If we play this right by summer, she'll look like the unstable one, and we'll have full custody. The award night's just step one." The subject line simply read, "Is this who should be influencing our students?" By noon, Daniel was calling Avery in a rage. By evening, I had confirmation from Mark that Avery had hung up on him mid-call. The break was happening. And tomorrow night, scholarship gala night, I would take the stage myself. Not for an award. For the kill shot. The scholarship gala had all the gloss of a small-town red carpet event. Shiny floors, a rented stage, plastic tablecloths that somehow managed to look expensive under soft lighting. Parents in their best clothes filled the banquet hall. Cameras flashed as students in pressed outfits posed with their awards. I arrived in a simple black dress, my hair pulled back, no jewelry except the tiny silver bracelet Lila had made me years ago. I wasn't here to compete with anyone. I was here to end them. Daniel was already at the back of the room, pretending to mingle, but his eyes were restless. He scanned the crowd like a man expecting a bullet. Miss Avery stood near the stage, smiling too wide at everyone who approached, her hand twitching at the stem of her wine glass. They weren't together tonight. The split between them was obvious. But I took a seat at a table near the front, just 2 chairs away from the podium. Beside my plate sat a small black case, the voice recorder. I placed it there casually like it was nothing while the program began. The evening rolled on through scholarships, speeches and clapping, But my mind was locked on the slot I'd arranged for myself. I'd volunteered weeks ago to present the Parent Tributes segment, a chance to honor the adults who had gone above and beyond for the students. At the time, it was just a way to be involved. Now it was my stage. When my name was called, I walked to the podium slowly, my knees still aching but my head high. I looked out at the crowd, at Daniel's tightening jaw, at Avery's frozen smile. Tonight, I began, we celebrate the people who help our children grow, their mentors, teachers, and of course their parents. I let that hang, scanning the room until I met Lila's eyes. She sat at a table in the middle, hands clasped, expression unreadable. But sometimes, I continued, behind the scenes there are other forces at work. People who try to shape our children's words for their own gain. People who think they can decide which parent counts, and which one doesn't. A murmur rolled through the crowd. Avery's grip on her glass tightened. I thought about keeping this to myself, I said, flipping open the voice recorder. But then I remembered, our kids deserve the truth. And so do we. Press play. Daniel's voice filled the hall. If we play this right by summer, she'll look like the unstable one, and we'll have full custody. The award night's just step one. People turned in their seats. I saw the superintendent's head whip toward Avery. Then came Avery's voice. Say it just like this, sweetheart. Thank your real parent, Ms. Avery, who shows up for you daily. The silence after that was louder than any applause. Avery's face went pale. Daniel started to rise from his seat, but the board chair held up a hand. Sit down, Mr. Brooks. Close the recorder. I missed my surgery to be here for my daughter on her big night. That's what parents do. No one gets to erase that. For a moment no one moved. Then a single clap. Then another. Soon the room was on its feet. Not for me exactly, but for the idea of what I'd just said. The superintendent stood, his voice firm. We will be addressing this matter immediately. Daniel left first, his face a mask of rage. Avery followed, her heels clicking fast across the tile. I stepped down from the stage and walked toward Lila. She looked up at me, eyes wide. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because, I said, taking her hand. I wanted you to hear it for yourself. We left together, the night air cool on our faces. Daniel and Avery had each other once. Now they had nothing. No trust, no alliance, no control. And I had exactly what I'd fought for. My daughter's hand in mine. And my place, unshakable as her real parent.